smiling? You don't like my hat.
Welcome back to the Big Red B Schneid Show. We will call this the Bi-Week Blues edition. Um, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I believe I'm up to 70 subscribers. So that goal of 100 is very possible by November. And be shooting us some more comments, what you guys think of the game. We're going to be breaking down, of course, Nebraska's 28th straight loss to a ranked opponent on Saturday in Michigan. First of all, though, Jim is down at the Lake of the Ozarks. And you want to show us your hat by chance? You're rocking?
Well, I'm doing a little fishing down here, so you can kind
Yeah.
of wiggle side it.
Uh,
It's a nice hat. It does kind of bother you when you wiggle it too hard because that tail wags behind you. You don't. It's kind of an unfamiliar feeling on your hat. So
oh
anyway,
man,
it's monogrammed, my name on it and stuff.
yeah. Well, that's great. Sounds like Jim's having fun catching some of them drum down there. Real big catch. Yeah, he's caught some largemouth. But anyway, yeah. So
No, not
Nebraska.
largemouth. That's drum.
Anyway, though, the stage was set pretty well for Nebraska. I mean, you had the '95 team lead them out, and then they had, uh, which we were expecting, Bud Crawford, who's now 42-0, the greatest boxer of the modern era, lead out the Huskers, Omaha native. So the stage was set for Nebraska to have, it felt, for me personally, it felt like Nebraska was going to have this game. And then we see them go down on the first drive. They drive down the field, and they have it at 2nd and 3. And they're unable to get 3 yards, and they turn the ball over on downs. I don't mind going for it, but at the same time, people will say, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and we can play that game because Michigan dropped so many passes, Nebraska forced a fumble. So many things were going in Nebraska's way to win that game. But getting down to it, they got the shit kicked out of them up front on both sides of the football.
We knew and we talked last week that how the defensive line gels and matures this year and goes along the season. It would be kind of how our football team goes as far as wins and losses and things like that. The most disappointing part was though is how bad our offensive line got its ass handed to it too. You got to think that the offense, given the hiccups that it had, it scored enough points to once in a while win a ball game, but a defense, or excuse me, an offensive line that allows 7 sacks and only in less than 50 yards rushing, you're not going to win very many ball games, guys. You just are not. That was probably the biggest disappointment I had.
Well, and you mentioned the offensive line. They were coming from both sides of the tackle positions, which was a disappointment considering, going in the fall camp, there was talk of 5 dudes. Teddy's was playing well at the right side, but he didn't play well in pass pro. And then, of course, Gunnar Gatula struggled. They tried Pritchett. He struggled. So there is a problem there. And the criticism of Dylan Raiola don't make any sense to me. When you look at, yes, he had an interception thrown, but Rule pointed out that was the tight end making a wrong break. But still, regardless, that's still on your quarterback. And he had one on the first drive, or one of the early on, that also should have been potentially picked off. So I'm not saying Dylan played a perfect game, but he completed over 70% of his passes on. But think about it. He completed over 70% of his passes. I believe it was around 73%, 30 of 41. On the 49 dropbacks, he was pressured 24 times. So that is just under 50% of the time he's getting someone up in his face, and he's able to complete over 70% of his passes. He's the freaking reason Nebraska was hanging in that game.
Yeah. So okay. So let's put a little bit of positive to this and see if there's something that there can be done. And what would, if I was a coach, and I'm not, obviously, and I don't make the bucks that these boys do, but so given the fact, and by golly, it is a fact, that Dylan doesn't have any time to pass, at least no more than 3 seconds. The coaches are going to have to call plays that are quick checkoffs and get rid of the ball fast.
And you
just
saw
when you
that.
have to.
And Nebraska, you saw it the whole game where they were trying to go 5 wide just to kind of get those short passes because they knew that Dylan's sitting in the pocket. And I know, yeah, I thought he actually improvised in the pocket pretty well, but he's just not a running quarterback. And that's just the style of quarterback he is. But I still feel he's a damn good quarterback. Um, and yet, at the same time, I do think that I have a solution for Nebraska to potentially try in the red zone inside the 10-yard line. Nothing against Dylan. He's your guy. Keep him going. But when you get in those short yardage situations, I like the idea of just trying a Latif for a triple option, zone read type thing. That's what I call a triple option nowadays, where you can dump it out in the flat. And you saw Nebraska do that at the end of the game to convert on fourth down, and then they hit Harburg for the touchdown. But you do that, he can run, and it helps out your whole team that is not going to be able to physically impose its will. So, but I don't know. I mean, Nebraska can't run the football. Nothing against even Emmett Johnson, but he only had 10 rushing yards in the second half. None of these guys, I believe I heard a stat that Nebraska only made 4 Michigan defenders miss. They're Nebraska's ball carriers up in the open field.
Nebraska got beat. They didn't
Well,
lose. They got beat. They got beat on the front line.
And we talked on the phone the next day, and I told you, I said, it really felt like a 21-point Nebraska loss. It really did.
I would agree. The scoreboard was very Nebraska friendly.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this is an executed play right here. But I mean, how many times do you get a Hail Mary before? I mean, yeah, it was executed, but that's 7 points right there. I mean, they still lost by 3. Nebraska made a play, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't want to call it lucky.
Well, it sure as hell is lucky.
What were you thinking because of course, you were sitting in the stands. What were you thinking on that play?
The words that came out of my mouth, and a hell of a lot of other fans, was "Holy shit!" They just made this work, and we're talking there. Anybody remember Ron Kellogg the third?
That's basically the same type of play. You roll Dylan run a little more, but chucking it up and guy catching on that side of the end zone. I believe that's the same spot that Westerkamp caught his too. And that was also this.
It was on the other end zone.
I'm pretty sure it was on the north side. Wasn't it? I thought. Are you struggling with some what's up?
You're buffering.
You're buffering, Jim.
Yeah, you're buffering.
But yeah, anyway, I'm pretty sure it was on that side of the end zone.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
But I don't know. I mean, I thought when Nebraska converted this, I thought Nebraska was that momentum they brought to the locker room was gonna really wear off on the team, and you'd see that in the second half. Clearly, I was wrong, but I mean, that's just Michigan's head coach after the game said he wasn't worried about it when Nebraska missed that. He said we were beating the snot out of him up front, and he's right. So I mean, there's some lingering questions during this bye week. Nebraska's in the same record-wise position they were after 4 games last year. So you think about that. But that's the thing with Nebraska. The red zone woes, they go and tie it up 10-10. And then 75-yard untouched touchdown. So you think about Nebraska's defense. They had 8 total missed tackles, 5 came from the secondary. And that's what I just did a story on. Although we're talking about the lack of Nash and Ty, which is arguably bigger than we expected. The Nebraska's linebackers and secondary especially, their pursuit angles are off. They're missing tackles. They're not filling the filling a void when they're supposed to come up, scrape off somebody, and get them. And that's why Michigan had those untouched touchdowns, is because John Butler, I thought, was pretty smart in that aspect of, okay, we're gonna force them to beat us with their arm, or man on man. They 4 and 5 man fronts. We saw legitimate 4-3 defense and a 5. We even saw a 5-2 at times. But that means that when you're in zero coverage, your linebackers, they have to read that key and they have to fill that hole. And it didn't work.
No, can you hear me pretty good?
Yep.
Well, you're buffering a lot. So if I delay on speaking or answering, it's because of buffering that's going on. But anyway, I just don't think Nebraska is ready to be competitive with the top 25 team consistently.
And I can't deny that. I think that the main concern, I mean, Vincent Shavers and Javen Wright each had the best tackling grades on Nebraska's team throughout the game. So that's your two linebackers inside majority of the reps. But remember on Haynes's 75-yard touchdown run, you saw Buford, who actually got benched in the game for a little bit. He over pursued, and Shavers missed that too. He runs up field, and Haynes just squeezes by him. That's not you're supposed to funnel that. And they didn't funnel at all. And it reminded me, say what you want, it reminded me of the 2012 Big Ten championship where Wisconsin just torched Nebraska's defense. And when they went up to Madison and Gordon broke the rushing record.
Yeah, there was a lot of records set back then, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, so I don't like when people say, well, if you take away the long runs, Nebraska held Michigan to this amount of yardage. You still gave up those runs.
And I know the other stuff. The other statistic is Michigan or Nebraska did better in the red zone than Michigan, and Michigan didn't have that many entries into the red zone. Well, you don't have to have red zone entries when you're running in from 75 yards out.
Yeah, and they can. Yeah, that's. I mean, you look at the stats. I mean, 17 carries, 153 yards for Justice Haynes, 6 carries, 80 yards for their backup, Jordan Marshall, and then 8 carries for my favorite number, 69 yards for Bryce Underwood. I honestly knew this game was over once Nebraska went down the field and did not. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I cringed. I was like, ooh, I should have picked Michigan after Nebraska went down the field and they could not score on the opening drive. And then you saw Bryce Underwood when he took off with his legs. I'm thinking, ooh, oh boy, here we go. But I mean, let's sing us some positives though. While we say that, Lindenmeyer had another good game at the tight end position. Ja'Cory Barney, 120 receiving yards. Of course, a lot of that came from the Hail Mary. So yeah, there were some bright moments. Like I said, the passing game, other than Dillon getting just absolutely railed in the backfield, I thought played well. But Nebraska has to find a number 2 running back. And we heard Matt Rule talk on Monday, the only time he's speaking this week. And he said that that's one of the things he brought up in the coaches' meetings that morning on Monday morning was, we got to find who the number 2 running back is. Who is it? And Jim can you hear it?
I'm missing you entirely.
Oh, I was saying Nebraska has to find out who their number 2 running back is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know that it made any difference with whatever running back they had. There was absolutely entirely no blocking.
Well, I thought that there were some lanes. I noticed with them at Johnson, which he's a solid running back, but I kept seeing him stopping his feet and trying to cut it instead of just hitting a hole or getting to the edge. He was trying to stop his feet, and I thought that was his biggest weakness, especially in the second half.
You know, guys, this was one of the most disappointing games I've watched in quite a while because I kind of had some enthusiasm and hoped the offensive and defensive lines were better than what they really are.
Like I said, though, with the defensive line, yeah, they're not great, but the defenders in the second and third level are what's missing all those tackles. I honestly thought the front four played decent, considering it was Michigan. I'm not. I get it. They got their ass whooped too, but we kind of knew going into the year that Nebraska was not going to be a team that as a on defense to line up and just push a line back like Michigan. But we were expecting the linebackers and the secondary still playing great defending the pass, but they're not making tackles.
Now, now I can finally hear you right.
I hope so. I was just saying second and third levels, the secondary can't make
We're struggling,
tackles.
guys.
Can you hear now?
Right.
Can you hear?
Yeah, we're struggling here on this.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I
Mentioned
can
the
hear you.
defensive line. I was saying it was the second and third levels of the defense that are missing the tackles, though. We knew that this defense was going to struggle.
True. Well, you had a running quarterback, and I think they had a defensive scheme to do whatever they could to spy in on him and try to stop him. They didn't get that done either.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, he ran that one in from outside 35 yards.
yeah, and we pointed that out. Well, let's look a little bit ahead. We'll do a preview show this next week, but we could sit and break down everything. I know everybody's had time to process the football game, the woes, the obvious stuff. Of course, you can even mention Ja'Cory fielding at his own three or 2 yard line. Um, that changed the second half because the field position was flipped the entire third quarter. But let's talk about looking at Michigan State that's coming in the Lincoln. It's going to be a 3 o'clock kick, so another afternoon game. Nebraska's homecoming matchup. Michigan State actually kind of battled with USC a little bit last Saturday night, and they have another mobile quarterback, Aiden Childs.
I don't think Michigan State has that much talent this year.
Well, they're 3-1, just as Nebraska is. I'm going to pull up the stats versus. So on the
I don't
year,
think Nebraska has
let's
that much talent either.
Oh, well, at some places they got exposed. I still think Nebraska. Don't you agree? We still believe that Nebraska could get that 8 to 9 win range. I'm still confident in that. Now, I will say that 7 wins if
8.
Nebraska 8. Yeah, I'm gonna. Nebraska can get it right, but yeah, these lingering issues is tough to fix. So yeah, passing wise, right now on the year he's thrown for 870 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, has a good ratio. But his rushing, um, I mean, he's a dual threat. He had 76 rushing yards against Youngstown State. I know it's a lower tier team, but he has that ability to run outside the pocket, so that's gonna be another challenge. Well, we'll break them down next week, but looking at it, I mean, I know they lost to USC 45-31, but you think about it, at halftime they were down by 14, but Michigan State fought back in the third quarter to make it, I believe it was a 7-point ball game at one point in the fourth quarter. But USC is a great team, I believe, this year. So I think that Nebraska is going to have its hands full. Michigan State as a team, they weren't running the ball crazy, so that's encouraging for the Huskers. But we'll break them down next week. But Jim, I want to get some of your reactions. What's up?
I see none of the rest of the games on the schedule being gimmies.
What's the Big Ten?
I don't see.
Maryland's a game that I'm watching more so than Minnesota now.
Maryland is a good team.
They're solid. But Jim, so before we wrap up the show, since we did our little quick bye week recap. I want to get your opinion on Oklahoma State firing Mike Gundy.
Wow. Gundy was a fiery individual, and man, he. Does anybody remember when he went after that one reporter? I think it was
Oh,
a
that,
reporter.
that that's been showing up on social media. He says like, this guy's a kid. Write articles about me or whatever. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, I always thought he was a funny guy. Do you remember that was it last year when they were talking about his running back that got a DUI and he said, it's like, shoot, it's all about your body weight. And he's like, I don't know how many times I've drank quite a few and driven home.
Yeah. I think the
Oh,
guy.
shoot.
Um, I think the guy lets his mouth get away from him quite a bit. So
Well, a name to watch that's been kind of brought up early is Dana Holgerson going to Oklahoma State. But I don't know if Dana wants to be another college football head coach, maybe professional, but Dana's a football coach. I don't know if he wants to deal with the NIL. He said he likes coaching football, so I wouldn't look too far into it right now, but yeah, it is a possibility. Um, Speaking of college football around the country, how about Indiana beating Illinois 63-3? I thought Illinois was going to beat the Hoosiers.
I did too. Indiana, their coach is a hard man to love if you're not an Indiana fan. I mean, he's got a strong personality. So I didn't see
Well,
that one
shit.
coming either.
Well, I mean, because we were kind of thinking, I think everybody amongst the national media was thinking, well, Indiana will probably win 8, 9 games this year, but they're not going to be a playoff team again. But after you do that, well, shoot. I mean, Illinois, I don't care what anybody says. I'm not saying they're a powerhouse, but Illinois is a good coached, run football program by Brett Bielema. So that's a surprise. But let's think about. I'm trying to think of some other
It was.
games around the Big Ten or national college football. There wasn't nothing really crazy for games. I guess game day went down for Miami and Florida, but Florida is down this year. Miami beat them. But that Shamar Brown from North Dakota State grew up in Omaha. He rushed for 80 yards and had 50 yards receiving in the game. So would have been nice for the Huskers if they could have snagged him. But Matt Rule said on Monday they didn't have the money to. So, but
Yeah.
um, anyway, I want to get some picks. So I'm actually my friend and I think we're driving down to Manhattan this weekend to watch the undefeated UCF Knights take on Kansas State. But yeah, K-State versus Scott Frost undefeated UCF Knights.
K-State's kind of a disappointment. I kind of have a feeling where most Nebraska fans will be rooting for this week, though. So I'm kind of a Wildcat fan.
I actually since I can be biased for this game, I'm going for UCF. That's gonna
Wow.
piss some people off, but I hey, Scott Frost is successful down there. And like him or not, I think he's still a solid coach. But yeah, so that one I think I'm gonna attend. It'll be my first college football game that ain't have to do with the Huskers or covering or anything. Of course, we got Oregon and Penn State Saturday night, Whiteout and Happy Valley. That's gonna be a good one. At least I hope.
I think Penn State's going to kick their ass.
You think so? I'm rooting for Oregon. I'm kind of a homer for Dan Lanning,
Yeah.
their head coach. So I'll take the Ducks.
Yeah.
And lastly, so they're shoot, I should have had this pulled up, but if I can get the ESPN app since we'll do a couple more bye week picks. So, oh yeah, Southern Cal plays Illinois. So I'll take USC over Illinois after last
Plays who?
week. USC, Illinois.
Well, really, so I'm supposed to take. No, it's got to
No,
be SC.
got to be USC. Indiana and Iowa. That one, I'm interested in how Iowa will hang. I think Indiana will probably put up quite a bit of points on them from last week. Wouldn't
Iowa
you
looks
think?
slow.
Well, it's still Iowa,
Iowa
though.
looks slow.
But shoot, though, they still they put up 38 over Rutgers. Here's one: LSU and Ole Miss. Monty Kiffin's boy, Lane Kiffin, coaching the Rebels.
I don't think LSU's that good this year.
They got him ranked number 4 right now via the Associated Press. But I think Kiffin gets it done.
I would agree.
And then lastly, we got Alabama, Georgia. Give me the Bulldogs. Can you give us a bark? Bark into the. Can't believe you just did that, but yeah. So anyway, we will be back next week to give you a preview. Hopefully, we can get the technical difficulties figured out. Once again, be sure to subscribe to the channel and have a good rest of your guys this week. Enjoy the games.
Go to the volleyball game
Bobby.
tonight. It's good too.
Yeah, we're recording this on Wednesday. This is Bobby Schneider, and that's Jim.